company culture is a big deal with you. How much of your management style is influenced by Micheal Scott?
125%.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
All right, good afternoon. Hang on. Wow. Let's start the intro over again for you regular podcast listeners. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, and welcome to another edition of Latitude Live. You guys know the routine. I am your host, Nate Benson, Director of Media and Public Relations here at 43 North. How's everybody doing tonight? How's that air conditioning? It's pretty awesome. Cold adult beverages. I never want to go back outside, I'm not going to lie, until about February. It's very warm outside. Not that I'm complaining, especially since our guest tonight did drive through a blizzard to get to Buffalo in January, but we'll get to that story in a minute. How many people here are regular listeners of the podcast? Thank you. How many people are here at the incubator for the very first time? Welcome to the 43 North Incubator. Thanks for coming out. How many people just want me to cut out these boring questions and just get right to the podcast? Yeah, right? Okay. All right, fine. But first I want to thank our sponsors, Flying Bison Expo Market, for providing the food and drink this week. So a quick round of applause to them. They did this out of the kindness of their heart. Now, without further ado, I want to introduce our guest this month. But before I do that, this person is a fan of The Office, so it would be an injustice of me to not play a song as he comes out. Ladies and gentlemen, from Kangarootime, Scott Wayman. The music didn't work, so we're already off to a great podcast. My computer somehow shut off.
Next level AV from Nate Benson.
Yeah,
Everybody give it up for Nate.
Yeah, you'd never tell I've been doing this for about 15 years. So, Scott, how you doing tonight?
I'm good.
What's new? Talk to me here. What's new?
So it's warm outside.
Hot. This is like Long Beach hot.
Yeah.
But we don't have that nice ocean breeze and the salty air.
We have the nice lakeside.
Lake is wonderful. So for those who don't know you, why don't you give us the quick pitch of who you are? Who is Scott Wayman?
So I'm the founder and CEO at Kangarootime.
You gotta get right up in the microphone.
Founder and CEO at Kangarootime.
Well, now you're yelling.
Why are you yelling? You're a foot from me. A serial entrepreneur. I'm one of 25 children in my family.
That was my next question. You read my questions without me knowing it, didn't you?
I can see them. They're right there,
well,
Nate.
Don't
yeah.
cheat.
Okay.
This is. I go out of my way to make sure my guests are not prepared for this. No, okay.
Well,
25 kids.
You don't. Yeah.
Yeah.
25 children. So brother to just about everybody on the planet, friend to everybody else.
Mentor to a couple.
Mentor to anybody that's
listening.
Crazy enough to listen.
So, my next question, you talk a little bit about that big family growing up. 25. I have 3 brothers and they drive me nuts, so I can't imagine 25.
Okay, so my parents in the 70s, they started adopting children, and they just never stopped. They adopted 18 children.
Wow.
They're amazing people, so their mission in life was to help children. And a lot of the kids that they adopted weren't easy kids. So in my home, I grew up with children that were in wheelchairs, that were medically fragile, in and out of the hospital, developmental delays and disabilities. So really tough kids that my parents were really passionate about giving homes to.
Oftentimes, the kids who were kind of looked over in the foster system, correct?
Sure. Yeah. So in the 70s, their focus was Korea. So my mom became passionate about what was going on in South Korea. There was a massive issue with poverty. So they adopted 4 children from Korea. My sister Holly had severe spina bifida, so was in an orphanage and was nearly unadoptable. My brother Mark who's my age, we're 5 days apart, we think. His birthday was kind of like
thrown at the dartboard, yeah.
But yeah, really interesting. And then in the 80s, started to adopt children with disabilities. And again, that was their passion. They had this ethos for they were somewhat religious, and they just felt like they were put on this earth to serve people and really take chances on on children that just didn't have a chance in the system.
I've also been told that you were the troublemaker of the 25.
Troublemaker, and I think part of the reason I'm here was my parents got a kick out of watching me kind of operate, so had the gift of gab at a young age.
No, not you.
Yeah.
I never heard you on the phone here.
I think everybody here, I'm the soundtrack of your life if you work in this office, because I sit over there and I do sales calls all day, and I've had 10, 15 people walk up to me and say, yeah, you have a really unique voice. I just hear it in my sleep all the time.
You do like 30 demos a day. It's insane.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is great, but
30,
I'm
40.
sick of them, to be honest with you.
And you guys can probably all do them. Everybody knows the cheesy jokes that it's their
This
first time
podcast is nothing
hearing
but
them.
cheesy jokes, Scott.
Yeah,
Come on.
I know. I've been listening to it.
At least somebody
So you
is.
have two masters. No, so I think my folks got a kick out of watching me operate. So from an early age, anytime my mom had to do any sort of research, consumer research, she would hand the phone off to me and say, hey, call around and see how much it would cost us to get our transmission fixed. And as a 6, 7, 8-year-old, I remember doing that type stuff. And, being a part of a big family, things are tight. So I think I started my first business at 8. I went around door to door, would ask people if I could mow their lawns and heat something like this. I grew up in Dallas, Texas area. And from there on out, had always had kind of a side hustle or a business.
So, prior to Kangarootime, what was, your professional life like? Specifically, I'm really curious, can you reflect on your time being the rental manager at Enterprise?
Sure. Well, so let me back up. So started
That
my
joke, by the way, did not get the reaction I thought it was. Wow, guys. The
There's
beer
a
is in
Will
the back.
Ferrell-
Feel free to loosen up.
In Step Brothers, he's going to give up on his career, and he says, maybe I should apply for a job at Enterprise
Right.
Rent-A-Car.
Yeah.
They have a really great management program, and he drones on and on. I did that. I was the guy that got the job at Enterprise Rent-A-Car. Great start to my career. So I'll back up. In college, have this big family, number of younger siblings still in the home. At my junior year, I get a phone call at 7 a.m. It was October 12th, and it was my sister saying, Dad's died. So my dad passes away all of a sudden, and my mom's widowed. So junior year of college, I played football. I ran track in college. Went home thinking, I'm done with school. I have to go home and support my family. Got home, went through the funeral, and my mom said, it's time for you to go back to school. And I said, no, we can't. My dad didn't have life insurance. The situation looked really grim as a 20-year-old from my perspective, oldest male in the family. Anyway, she insisted I went back to school. But my life changed there, so I went from kind of a careless college kid that just liked to drink beer, play sports, to somebody that had to think about maybe sending money home. So started my first business my junior year. By the time we got to, so that was November in Kansas, we started the business. By the time March 1st rolled around and grass started growing, which the winters were a little shorter than what we just experienced, we had about 200 accounts. And the legacy vendor in town had, back to my lawn mowing and landscaping days as a kid, they were mad at us. They would drive their truck by and say, get out of here, you can't, you're a bunch of college kids. But had a really viable business, so would hire my teammates, and I was really intoxicated by the selling and going door to door and building the business. So from there on out, I finished my degree. I'm a psych major. Graduated in 1997, so I think I'm also one of the older founders here by like 20 years. So 97, graduated college, and then decided to sell that business. My business partner in college was in law school, so he finished out law school. It paid for his law school. And I made more money those last 2 years in college than I did my first 2 years at Enterprise Rent-A-Car. Stayed there for 5 years at Enterprise, worked up, promoted really fast, relocated back to Texas. And it was kind of an entrepreneurial stop. So anybody out there that is in college or looking to kind of launch the next phase of their life after college, going into corporate America, there's nothing wrong with that. I think so many entrepreneurs, that's all they've ever done. I think a lot of the skill sets that some great entrepreneurs bring to the table come from their time on the bench in corporate America.
So you started Kangarootime, for a very specific reason, I'm told. Can you kind of reflect on why you started Kangarootime, how you got to that point?
Yeah, so in 2003, my mom was, again, huge family. I think my youngest brother, Chase, was 8. My mom had been diagnosed with ALS, so he needed to be placed into a family. In no way, shape, or form did I want to do it, but after kind of deliberating with my sisters and the rest of the family, I decided to take guardianship of Chase and learn firsthand how challenging it is to be a parent. So 2003, I just left Enterprise and had just started my healthcare career, was working 70 hours a week. The sales force I was on at the time, I was carrying capital equipment, medical imaging product. It was so competitive, they hired 24 of us. Before the first 8 months, or before the first 3 quarters were done, 22 had been let go. I was one of the 2 that survived. I became the national sales trainer there, was working like 70 to 90 hours a week, adopting a young, crazy, rambunctious child.
As all 8-year-olds are.
Yeah. And he has a turbo mode, so put him in childcare and learned how challenging the business was. So could see as a parent from the outside looking in how challenged the team that was running the childcare center was. Walked in, met them. They had no billing. They had no business intelligence. They had no software. They were writing out bills on what they called runners. So they'd get a white piece of paper, and they might cut the piece of paper. They might tear it. It'd be on his backpack. It was wrong a lot, so helped them install software. And then before I started my career in software, knew that eventually, if I had the wherewithal or the know-how or the grace, I'd start this business to go into that vertical.
So you found out early on, you identified a market segment of technology that hadn't been touched. I mean, they're still doing stuff in the 80s, essentially, with paper and pen.
So yeah, I think people drive by those businesses and you see the adorable, logos and, the cute branding and we have centers that have slides. You walk in and you jump on a slide. It's just like a fantasy world. But on the backside of the business, it's a dynamic business, and it's very challenging. There's the payments are transactional. They're all over the place. There's discount structures. The regulatory requirements are really crazy, so they're very challenged. And like you had said or asked, there's really no comprehensive software platform in that market.
So when did you get the opportunity to start Kangarootime? And you kind of alluded to it already. Why do it? But when were you able to, and what was that experience like?
So I had been from 2003 to 2007. I'd been building my career in healthcare and had moved from the natural progression is you move as a salesman or on the distribution side. You maybe start with instruments or capital equipment, so you sell things, and then as you progress, and if you're deemed worthy or smart enough, which I'm not, but you could then pick up software. And software in 2007, 2008, became really hot in health systems because everybody was digitizing. There were incentives to do that. Computing had kind of hit that point in history to do mass ERP type platforms and software. So migrated.
And for those who don't know, ERP is
enterprise
something
platform. Software.
It's a software.
If anybody knows the answer to that question,
feel free to help us out here. We're dying.
We'll buy you a beer. So it had become time to do that. In that time, a friend of mine had founded a company. So he was on the team at Philips, and they were doing some really interesting things. They had kind of built the standard for medical imaging. So there was a time where there were some battles between big industry to put out what the standards were in these software platforms. So he had come to me and said, we're thinking of building an EMR, an electronic medical record, at MedStreaming. Would you be interested in leading that team to do that? And I said, yes. I had just gotten married, so my young wife was like, she wasn't sure about me,
okay.
Our economics. So I quit a job where I was doing very well, and I went to MedStreaming with zero salary, right? It was zero salary for the first year, and we didn't have a product. So when you go to a new company and you're on zero salary and you don't have a product to sell, your income is zero.
I'm not good at math, but that equates.
So we went into our first demo after 3 months. We were heads down. It was myself and 2 engineers that basically created this part of the company. We went into our first demo, and this cardiologist was gracious enough in Bakersfield, California. So we drive from LA. It's about a 4-hour drive in traffic. I open up the computer. We set up a big Mac monitor. We thought we looked really official. I started the demo, and he says, "What the F is this? I thought you were here to show me an EMR." And we said, we're showing you our EMR. And he left, and we thought he was just kind of leaving to maybe check on something and come back, and he never came back.
Oh.
And then the office manager came and said, "Well, he's done with you guys. Thanks for wasting his time." And so 3 months from that point, we went heads down. We did a little more research, built more product, and we sold the largest cardiology practice in the country. Very soon, sold into Johns Hopkins, Mayo Clinic. We went on a crazy run. When I certified the product, when we took it to market, we had 750 competitors. So the chances of us selling one install were pretty low. The possibilities that we would get into major health systems and compete with the multi-billion-dollar companies was very, very low, but we were very fortunate we did. So I went full-time there in 2010, had a nice run there. Our business unit went to over 200 employees, and then exited after our Series A. We raised a $14.8 million Series A there. They've done a fantastic job at MedStreaming. They're going to raise a very significant Series B. I'm one of their biggest cheerleaders. They've done amazing things with the company. But
you wanted to finally move on and work on the child care thing.
So I was an entrepreneur there. Again, any advice out there to anybody that's looking to do something, there are great opportunities within small companies. Here in 43 North, there are companies that are probably ready to grow into different areas of business. So I broke away and founded Kangarootime in 2015. Jess and I kind of bootstrapped the first couple 100,000, built kind of an MVP and prototype in 2015. I went to a trade show in June of 2015. We did not have a product. I stood in front of people, probably about this size crowd. What do you think? There's about 1,000 people here. We'll trump the numbers up. Trump.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nice. This is a non-political podcast. That being said.
Yeah, double entendre. Trump the numbers up.
See what you did there, yeah.
Yeah. So left that show with about 100 customers ready to watch us build something. Unfortunately, it took us about a year to bring a product to market.
So who is Jessica, and what's her role in this whole startup story?
So Jessica is my wife, my number one fan, the only person that's believed in me ever. But
I believe in you.
Well, thank you. Yeah, nobody did before she did.
Okay, fine, fair enough.
No, when I met Jessica, I was a mess. So everybody knows I like to have a beer here and there. Stop laughing, and maybe too many. But when I met Jessica, that's all I did. So we agreed that I would not do that as much.
Fail.
Yeah, exactly. And then I get to Buffalo.
Yeah. Gotta stay warm somehow, Scott. Gotta stay warm somehow. Did the Long Beach Homeowners Association know you were operating a startup out of your condo?
No.
Great.
No. And I've done that more than once. So
you play loose and dangerous, don't you?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So when we left Long Beach for Buffalo, we were sneaking. So I live in an okay place because of Jessica.
Yes, Long Beach is an okay place.
It's an okay place. Live on Ocean Boulevard.
Oh, tough.
So Jessica and I bought a home in a high-rise.
Okay.
It's on the 27th floor. It looks out to Catalina. Things were lean and mean at Kangarootime, so we gave up our home and made it an office. The Homeowners Association's very stringent, has rules.
Yeah.
Kelly and Lisa both done like a reconnaissance crawl to our elevator. They've walked our dog numerous times, and I've been asked by the staff there, what's going on, and how many dog walkers do you have?
Oh, like 7.
So yeah, we hid under the veil of dog walkers and friends, I guess.
So what the heck's a Long Beach startup doing in Buffalo?
So back in 2016, I heard about this contest called 43 North. We were growing, but we weren't scaling like a rocket ship. The Storybook Series A bound software platform company.
Yeah. On your way to $1 billion. Yeah.
On our way to $1 billion valuation. Yeah. No, we weren't. So we saw 43 North as that first year as a great opportunity to acquire the right amount of capital at the right valuation. And then 2017 came around. We didn't win. We made the semifinals. And you guys made a terrible decision not to.
I wasn't on the staff then, so I couldn't help you out
true.
there. What do you want from me?
But we really liked. So the ethos of the contest changed, and I think as in year 5 with the $1 million follow-on, the contest becomes more and more compelling to quality companies. So we continue to grow and show metrics, and it just made sense for us to enter again. It's not as if we grew past the competition. I think the competition evolved. And we saw it as an opportunity to centralize and maybe use it as an inflection point to get out of a secret, covert operation inside a Long Beach Homeowners Association that didn't really want us. And we also saw it as an opportunity to move close to our customers. So when we looked at the contest, we had 70 or so centers that were live. I think 55 of them were here on the East Coast or on Central Time Zone. So in my home, we would set the alarm for 4:15 in the morning because that was a reasonable 7:15 here on the East Coast. The phones would start ringing, the support calls. So it was just more pragmatic for us to be on the East Coast. Here in Western New York, we're starting to grow as well. So being close to our customers, this is great. We have our customers that actually come into the incubator here. We for whatever reason, I think we've got, a focused group of 7 or 8 centers in Rochester. We'll have a bunch here as well.
That's great.
Spinning up.
You took a cross-country trek from Long Beach to Buffalo in January. From what I understand, it involves a robbery, several whiteouts, and no antifreeze in your car. Real quick, tell me how that experience was.
Who here has cried while driving because you're so scared that you're just going to slide off the road? So when you stop at a service station and you're passing through the door and this white stuff is all over the place, and somebody comes out and yells, "Did you see the 14 cars and the cop car and the big rig truck that slid off the road?" And we just kind of thought they were joking. You're in for kind of a crazy track.
Fun experience.
It's a fun experience. So we were told that we winterized, right? So went to the mechanic and
California winterized. Yeah,
exactly.
No, yeah. You guys were in tip-top shape.
Went to the mechanic, and I think it got to like 28 degrees as we were going through Colorado, and I pulled the windshield wiper fluid, and nothing.
Oh.
Didn't work. Yeah.
Yeah. Why was that, Scott?
So yeah, there's something you can do for that apparently. We didn't do that. We get through Nebraska, and we were making great time. We were killing it.
You can't see anything, but you're making great time.
Couldn't see anything, and we tried. Okay, so I'm not a student of physics, but we tried spray bottles, out the side. It was ridiculous. So get to Michigan, and that's when all hell broke loose. Now,
as it often does in Michigan, I hear.
Yes. Yeah. Around Ann Arbor, it just goes crazy. So Kelly was in a caravan behind us. She stopped the first night in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and we had all strategized how we were going to get out here. And Kelly and Lisa put these things on top of their cars, and they packed all their valuable things up there. So we get a call from Kelly, and she says, "We spent the night in Albuquerque last night, and somebody cut the thing off my car." So she got robbed. As we were trekking through Michigan and Ohio, there was like 60 inches that hammered Erie, PA. So we drove right through that. That was a blast.
It's a dusting. Yeah, but
that's what everybody kept saying. Then we got to I-90. So how long does it take you from when you hit the New York border on I-90 to here? What would be the average time?
65, 70 minutes.
Okay, it was 7.5 hours.
Ah.
And the snow, it was snowing so hard that if you got too far away from the car in front of you, and with our awesome windshield situation, you could not see the sides of the road. So the only thing the only way you knew you were on the road on a freeway, which is ridiculous, was the graded texture on the yeah. So you knew you had to be. So Jessica cried. I cried hysterically. It was a stress. It was stressful.
The best part about that stretch of the 90 from the border to Buffalo is there's only one stop, and it's in Angola, which is like 45 minutes into that 70-minute drive. So.
And we were trying to make the decision there: do we pull off here? And we were so out of our element. We're like, what if we get buried by snow and nobody can ever find know? But it was snowing hard. So I learned about this thing called lake effect snow.
Yeah.
Really, it's
got a crash course in Western New York in one night. So moving on from how wonderful the weather is, because I hate to emphasize on that. Company culture is a big deal with you. How much of your management style is influenced by Micheal Scott?
125%. Yeah.
What's the best prank you've ever played on one of your staffers?
Oh gosh, there's so
That's
many.
PG rated for this podcast.
Oh, okay. Okay, so it's the best and the worst prank. I engineered a bullhorn underneath. When you sit down on a seat, there's a little bit of give. Yep. So I engineered it so that our former COO would sit on the chair and it would just blast the sound. So we set up all the cameras, and again we were covertly sneaking everybody into the office. So I had to go down and get Kelly, and he wasn't supposed to get there. he snuck up and sat on the chair, and nobody ever saw it. So, and then he claimed it didn't even scare him.
No, it was totally fine. I knew you guys did it. Yeah. I'm also told that you have a strong sense of belonging. Is that true? So you really adapt well to a place. So much so that you somehow inserted yourself into the Buffalo St. Patrick's Day Parade.
Yes, yeah.
Got it.
So they say the number one indicator of good mental health or happiness or contentment is a sense of belonging, right? So, I mean, I grew up with 25 siblings.
Got to stand out somehow.
You have to stand out, and you just have to belong, right? You just belong. I mean, how many times do I just kind of encroach into your private space?
Just 4 or 5
belong?
times a day, usually.
See how happy I am? See how happy that makes me?
See how angry I am always?
Yeah. See, and another part of contentment or good mental health is just being oblivious. So
which is also
I've never noticed. But yeah, during the St. Patty's Day Parade, it looked like an open invitation to just kind of, I mean, nobody was wearing anything special.
No.
There was no code of conduct. Nobody said anything. I even asked the peace officer if I could, and he said, I don't know. So I just did it.
Did all that work out well?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was so much fun.
So we're going to open this up for questions in a second here, but I do want to, I've asked like 5 joke questions in a row, so I do need to get serious for a moment. There were some times where things were pretty tight for you as a startup, and you had to make some pretty difficult decisions with the company. What is it about your upbringing, your management, lifestyle and training throughout your career that helped you guys get through all that?
So there's a few things. So first of all, the story I like to tell that just kind of defines our company was at the end of 2016, we ran out of money. And Jessica and I, we'd had some reserve from my time when I was actually earning money. And we had to call each six of our employees and ask or tell them that they would have to go to half their salary or even better. We had one of them said, I don't need money right now, let's just kill it. So everybody we called, I was expecting, hey, I can't do this, I have a mortgage, we have kids, we have this going on. Everybody I called said, we get it. We know things have not moved along as fast as they should have, and we're in this. So that really, defined what we're all about. I think as we kind of started to onboard customers and show this relentlessness, I think customers started to see that. I think our investors started to see how crazy crafty we were, how low we could keep our burn and break even. But it just goes to show, Kelly, who's my second favorite employee, and Lisa, my favorite employee.
For those listening on the podcast, Lisa's in the back now giving him the finger, so that's fantastic. That's great.
And I like all of them except for Lisa. But no, but each, and Rocco, and at the time Anna, and Patrick, and John, and Jason, and Jessica had made all these crazy sacrifices to keep the thing going because they believed.
Why keep it going? I mean, at that point, a lot of startups would have said, you know what, throw their hands up in the air and say, move on, go get a job somewhere else. Why did you guys stick through it? So
we kept seeing these indicators that, one, we had something that was magical. So our customers love us. You've seen it. You've been to on site with us, with our customers. It's hugs. It's thank you. It's you've changed our business. And I think we saw that we weren't getting the kind of commercial investment traction that other companies in our space were.
Because it's not a sexy business. I mean, right. When a VC or angel group is looking at you going, it's just childcare software. Who cares, right?
Right. But these are people that are building bodies, souls, and minds. They're the best people on the planet. So again, I think the segmentation that we serve are such wonderful people, and we started to see these magical things with how they ran their businesses, and they would come back to us with discoveries. You're gonna visit with us one of our customers in New Jersey.
Apparently, I'm going to New Jersey.
Yeah,
okay,
yeah. I'll put it on your calendar.
Appreciate
we'll just
that.
belong together all the way to
yeah.
New Jersey. And Scott Lerner, the owner there, tells us that we changed his business, and we did. He had come into the business, and it was chaotic, and we partnered together to really kind of right-size his P&L, his utilization, how he does things, and we have amazing stories like that across the portfolio. But back to why, I think all of us know that, something that's great, building something that's wonderful, something that's hopefully revolutionary one day, hopefully cross my fingers. There's a cadence to build it, right? So I think the beautiful things come from a lot of time under tension and people becoming really good at what they do. And to my background, I think watching two parents that really struggled and were on a mission, and it was just kind of like, shit, we're all in. When you adopt 18 children,
you have no choice.
You have no choice.
Yeah.
There's no way out. I think that was kind of like a guiding influence too, and just very, very glad to be connected to that.
All right, let's open it up. Anybody got any questions here in the audience? Someone's got to. Could you state your name, ma'am?
Penelope. Do you have any plans to expand Kangarootime beyond early ed?
Yeah, so we've already expanded into behavioral health. Our first deal was just announced 3 weeks ago. We're partnering with ECMC, Erie County Medical Center here in Buffalo. Dr. Michael Cummings is helping us. We're deploying Kangarootime as it is right now, and it's a perfect fit for those high acuity behavioral health environments. So I didn't tell everybody what we do. We do 4 things at Kangarootime. So
yeah, it would have been good of me as the host to actually ask what Kangarootime does.
That's right, Nate.
60 episodes into this, I'm really just getting the hang of it. So, Scott, why don't you tell us what Kangarootime does?
So we essentially do 4 things. The first thing we do is we automate the business for our customers. So we take them out of the administrative suites. We automate their billing, their paperwork, their entire administrative paradigm. The second thing we do is we automate their point of care. So at child care centers, the classroom, we prompt teachers as to when to administer feedings, changings, learning goals, things like that. The third thing we do is we hardwire parents into the experience. So if their child is in a hospital or in a behavioral health environment or in a classroom at an early education school, we're connecting that point of care environment to the parent through our mobile app, and it's an elegant experience like Uber. And we all know that millennials, their attention graph is that mobile first experience. And then the fourth thing we're doing, which is kind of new, we had to get to critical mass and really understand how our customers use our platform. We're starting to understand the data. So if you look at what we do in the business, then tie that into the classroom, and then what we know and what we can utilize and help understand about the families that use it, the data story is very compelling. So we know what every child eats every day. We know when they have an incident or a meltdown. We know when they milestone in the classroom. We know how well teachers perform. So that data story is really becoming probably the most compelling part of our business as we help our customers.
Who else has a question? Anybody? Really?
Hey, really good question, Penelope.
That was a great question. Thank you,
question.
Penelope. Who were some of your business mentors, when starting Kangarootime?
So our first investors were Mucker Capital, so Eric Ranalla and Will Sue. They have a fantastic record with vertical SaaS companies. They incubated Service Titan, which is going to be the next billion-dollar company in vertical SaaS. They're just an amazing company. There are a number of our investors from Tech Coast Angels that have been very influential in Los Angeles. Frank Mastronuzzi is somebody that we met when we were at Founder Institute, which Founder Institute was a great influence for us, and we'll be starting a Founder Institute chapter in Buffalo. I'll be one of the mentors and help with managing the platform. And then once we got to Buffalo, we were paired with Bob Willer, So Eric Reich connected us with his CIO. Bob has a history with, I think, 5 exits and great experience. And Bob works hand in hand with us here in the incubator. Has been a great influence and a great technical leader here. So everybody throughout our journey, all across the continuum of investors, and then 43 North connecting us with Bob, has just been amazing.
Checking out the questions on Facebook right now, we had one comment from Julie, who I would imagine is his sister.
Okay.
Julie Wayman?
Yes, yeah.
She gives us the thumbs up. You're doing a great job.
Awesome. Thank you, Julie.
Thank you for that. So
Love
if there's
you.
is there any
Love
other
you.
last minute questions? Yeah, we got 2, but you're whatever. No. It's an employee question. She's just going to bust his chops.
Hey, Scott. So when you were starting your business, it's scary and exciting, and you can probably see there's opportunity, but you don't know if it's going to be successful. Even as you get going, you still don't know, and maybe you don't know now. But was there a certain point that you knew, okay, this is going to start working? You started to see what you were blindly believing.
Yeah. So in my first one at Med Streaming, I think we knew because we had a kind of a warm pool of customers that we had already been working with. So those were easy to validate with. With this one, we had no clue. I went to about 100 different child care centers, and it was weird because I'm a guy by myself, and I walk into a child care center without an introduction and say, "What are you guys doing?" And let me tell you about. So the customer development was a little bit harder to pull off and harder to understand and validate, but we didn't know until we started building the product. Until that trade show I went to, where we had everything wireframed. Validation's kind of a tough one. I think if we would have gone by our traction and revenue numbers, we probably should have shut it down in that first year because we did not have any virality whatsoever. I think we had 30 customers that actually committed that first year.
Great. Anything else? I know you did. Okay, I'm sorry.
If you thought of all the characters on The Office, who do you most relate to and why?
So I think I mean, just with my facial structure and kind of my
You are
kind of
very
my
Dwight-ish,
mojo.
yeah.
No, I'm more of like Mose, Dwight's cousin. Just
deep reference. There you
yeah.
go.
So Mose, you might say something and then I just skulk off into the ether. Mose or it's got to be Mose or Angela. I mean, I'm a lot like Angela with temperament and.
I do love the episode where Mose is painting in the dark. That's fantastic. But we could go on for The Office for like another 5 hours. So let's give a round of applause for Scott Wayman for joining us this week on the podcast. A few quick house cleaning items. If you're a small business owner or know a small business owner, make sure you check out ignitebuffalo.org. It's a new grant program with 43 North, Facebook, and M&T Bank. We're awarding grants between $25,000 and $100,000 to small businesses across Western New York. So again, check out ignitebuffalo.org for that. Now, all of you promised to go home tonight and subscribe to the Latitude podcast, right? On Apple iTunes, Stitcher Radio, TuneIn, any podcasting app you like. Please do that. And also, you're all going to promise to go to iTunes and leave a 5-star review of the podcast, right? Yes, of course, please do, because my job depends on it. And I really like this job. So again, thanks for coming out tonight. For the record, Scott, it was great. I enjoyed this conversation very much. Thank you for coming out. Another round of applause for Scott and the Kangarootime team. For 43 North, I'm Nate Benson, and we'll see you at the next one.